All right, so in 4.7, we're solving quadratic equations, still by factoring, but when a is greater than 1. And we were working with when a was equal to 1, but now we're going to be looking at when a is greater than 1, when something isn't as easy to factor into two binomials. So we're going to have a couple steps for this. And the first step is you're going to want to multiply a by your c. So you're going to want to multiply your a, which is ax squared plus bx, by your c. All right, so when you have your a, and I'll make that just a little bit neater, when you have your a, it's going to be multiplied by c, and then that's how you're going to get your two binomials. And then second is you're going to make a list. You're going to make a list of all the factors. So you're going to make a list of all the factors of a times c, and I'll show you what I mean. So you're going to make a list of all the factors. And then 3, I want you to circle which factors work. So circle the pair that add to b. So circle the pair that add to your b. And your b is what you is in the middle number. So circle the pair that, let me give myself a little bit more room, that add to b. Then fourth, and your second to last step, I just want you to use your newfound numbers. So use these to rewrite the equation. You're going to use these to rewrite it in a way that you can actually split it up into two binomials. And lastly, number 5, factor by grouping. And factor by grouping, I'll show you what that means, but you're basically going to get two of the same binomial, and then you're going to use that as one, and then the other one you're going to use as different. And first off, number 1 isn't so pretty, so go ahead and cross that off. I want you to change that to 2x squared minus 9x minus 5. This is going to be a lot easier to work with. So what we're going to do first is the number 1 step. We're going to multiply a by c. Well, a is 2 and c is negative 5. So I'm going to have 2 times negative 5, which equals negative 10. All right, so what are the factors? Now I'm going to make a list of my factors. And what are the factors? Well, I have negative 1 and 10, and then I have negative 10 and 1, I have negative 5 and 2, I have 2 and a negative 2 and a positive 5. Well, what one of them add up to negative 9? And that actually is, well, negative 10 and 1. So that's what I'm going to use. So how I'm actually going to rewrite my equation is I'm going to still have the 2x squared, but I'm going to have a positive, again, I'm going to have a positive x now and a negative 10x, right? Positive x plus negative 10x does give you a negative 9x, and then I have a negative 5 on the back end. All right, well, I'm just going to look at this first section. This first section, I can take out, well, I can take out an x. I still have 2x plus 1, right? And then I'm going to look at this second section. Well, what if I take out a negative 5? I'll have a positive 2x, and I'll have a plus 1. The trick to this, these two things have to be the same. If they are not the same binomial factor, then you did something off. So these two are the same. That means these guys, actually my x and minus 5 turn to x minus 5, and I have my 2x plus 1. So I use these two numbers to equal these two binomials, and this is what your factor should look like. All right, I'm going to try number 2 for you. So let's try this again. So number 2, I have 5x squared plus 41 plus 42. Okay, the first thing I want to do is I want to do 5 times 42. I want to times my a by my c. So 5 times 42 actually equals 210. Factors of 210. Well, I have 2 and 105. I have 3 and 70. I have 5 and 42, I have 6 and 35. What ones add up to 41? Well, if I'm looking at it, I only have 6 and 35 that add up to 41. So how I'm going to rewrite this is I'm going to have my 5x squared, I'm going to have plus 40, not 45, I will have 35, right? I'll have 35x plus 6x, again, 35 plus 6x equals 41x, and I'll have a plus 42. Now, let's simplify things out. I'm going to pull a 5x out, because 35x and 5x, my greatest common factor is 5x. I'm going to have an x plus 7. All right, now I already need to know I still have to have an x plus 7 when I add it. From 6x to 42, I do have a 6 in common, and I get x plus 7. So because these guys are the same, I know I did something right. I'm left with 5x plus 6 as my other binomial, and then x plus 7. All right, let's try one more. Unless, again, I'm going to remind you of the steps. This one, though, I actually want you to change. All right, this one's pretty ugly, which is why we're doing it. I want you to change that to 3x squared minus 10x minus 8. I want you to change it to that. So I have 3x squared minus 10x minus 8. Well, I'm going to multiply my a and c. So I have 3 times negative 8, which is going to give you a negative 24. Now let's write out second step. I did my first step, which was multiplying. Second step, I'm going to write out all my factors. I have negative 6, positive 4. I have a negative 4 and a positive 6. I have a positive 3, a negative 8, a negative 8. Oh, nope, sorry. A positive 8, a negative 3. I have a, 2, a negative 12. I have a positive 12 and a negative 2. And so that, I believe, is all my factors. What ones work for a negative 10? What ones add up to a negative 10? It's 2 and negative 12. So since those add up to negative 10, I'm going to use those to split up my equation. I'm going to have 3x squared minus 12x plus 2x minus 8. All right, and then I'm just going to look at, so we did step number 3 and 4, we circled our factors. Number 4, we use this to rewrite it. And number 5, we're going to factor by grouping. And so the greatest common factor of the first term is going to be 3x. I'm going to have then x minus 4. Now the factor of the second term, well, my greatest common factor is actually 2. That's all I got. And then I have x minus 4. Because these are the same, I know I did something right. So then my factors are 3x plus 2, it's whatever's on the outside, then times x minus 4. And those are your two factors. Let's try one more, because I want you to kind of rewrite this one. This one, too, is uglier than I want it to be. I want you to change this to 4x squared minus 13x plus 3. All right, so my first step, times my a times my c. Well, what's 4 times 3? That's 12. What are the factors of 12? Well, I know I have 4 and 3. I know it's 2 and 6. I know it's 12 and 1. All right, but if I'm actually looking at my b is negative. So that means that all of these will have to be negative because 2 negatives make a positive. Well, what ones add up to negative 13? And again, step number 3, circle, right? Number 3 is circle, so I circle my factors that add up to negative 13. And then I'm going to rewrite it, step number 4, into a new equation. So I have 4x squared minus 12x minus x, and then plus 3, right? That's what you should get. So then what I can do for each of them, well, 4x squared minus 12x, I get a 4x. As my greatest common factor, I get 4x minus 3. And then my greatest common factor is a negative 1, right? So I have plus, well, I guess it would be minus 1. If I take a negative 1 out, I have a positive x now, but I have a negative 3. So because these are the same, I know I did something right. Now it's step number 5. We're going to group by factoring, and we just write it as 4x minus 1 times x minus 3. So I'm going to do number 5 with you guys just as one more practice. So again, first step, we're going to multiply 7 times negative 2. So 7 times negative 2 gives you negative 14. Well, factors of negative 14, I have negative 1 and 14. I have negative 14, 1. I have 8, not 8, I have 7. 7 times negative 2, I have a negative 7 times 2. I believe that's all my factors. Which ones add up to a positive 13? Well, it's this guy, right? The first one we wrote down. So I'm going to then, I did step number 3, which was circle. So now I'm going to do step number 4 and rewrite it. So I'm going to have 7k, I'm going to have plus 14k, and then minus k, and then minus a 2. Because positive 14k minus a k does equal a positive 13k. Alright, so 7k plus 14k, well, the most I can get out of this is 7k. It becomes k plus 2, right? Comes k plus 2, and then a negative k and a negative 2. I actually have a negative 1, and that becomes k plus 2. I factor out negative 1. All right, well, that was step 5, and now I just need to rewrite that. So I have 7k minus 1, and then k plus 2. And this is my answer. This is my factoring when a is greater than 1. All right, so on the next page, what I want you guys to do, I want you to look at number 9, and I actually want you to rewrite this one. So what I want you to rewrite it as is 3x squared minus 5x equals 2. And we're going to be working with this. So I'm actually doing all the same steps. The only thing that has really changed is that, well, now I have an equal something. So I want to get everything to one side, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to subtract 2 from each side. And then I'm going to be left with 3x squared minus 5x minus 2 equals 0. Now I can go into my first step. So my first step is times a by c. So I get 3 times negative 2, which equals negative 6. And now a second step, write all my factors. So I have negative 3, positive 2, negative 2, positive 3. Then I have negative 5. And then I have a, not negative 5. What am I doing? I have a negative 6 and a positive 1 and a negative 1 and a positive 6. So what ones add up to negative 5? Well, that's going to be a negative 6 plus 1 does equal a negative 5. So all right, that was step 4. Circle it. Step 3, that was circle it. Step 4 is to use factoring. So for step 4, I'm going to rewrite it. I'm going to have 3x squared still, but instead of negative 5x, I'll have a negative 6x and a positive 1x minus 2, and that equals 0. So now step 5, let's rewrite this. Well, a 3x can come out. It becomes x minus 2. And then, it's still just going to be, nothing can come out, right? A 1, sure. And it becomes x minus 2 still. That equals 0. Well, now I can rewrite this, right, into 3x plus 1 and x minus 2 equals 0. Well, hold on, if it equals 0, what am I going to have to do? Well, if it equals 0, I'm going to have to split it into 2 equations. So I'm going to have 3x plus 1 equals 0, and I'm going to have x minus 2 equals 0. Now I solve for x. Well, I'm going to subtract 1 from each side, so I end up getting 3x equals negative 1, divide each side by 3. So my first answer equals x equals negative 1/3. Well, what about the second one? I'll add 2 to each side, so then I get x equals a positive 2. And here are your 2 answers. Let's do that one more time. So for number 10, what we're going to do is we're going to add 7 to each side to get my numbers all on one side. So I have 7p plus 50p equals a positive, not equals, I am so sorry, it plus 7 equals 0. Now, let's do my first step. I'm going to have 7, my a times my c. So 7 times 7 equals 49. Well, what are 2 factors of 49 that add up to 50? Well, I have 49 1 and 7 and 7. And only 49 1 equals 50. Okay, so I did step 2. My step 3 was circling. Now to step 4, which is rewrite. So I'm going to have 7p plus 49p plus 1p plus 7, and that equals 0. All right, so 7p squared, this should be squared. 7p squared plus 49p, that's going to be 7p is most in common. And then I'm going to have p plus 7, and then I can't really take anything out other than a 1, and I'll have p plus 7 again equals 0. All right, lastly, step number 5, we're going to rewrite this so that we can have 2 binomials. We have factor binomials. So you're going to have 7p plus 1 as 1 times p plus 7 equals 0. Now remember, whenever time we have something equals 0, we're going to have to split it into 2 equations. So I'll have 7p plus 1 equals 0, And now I have p plus 7 equals 0. All right, now I need to solve for p. So I'm going to subtract 1 from each side. I get 7p equals negative 1. To get p alone, I divide by 7 because the opposite of multiplying is dividing. And then I get p equals negative 1/7. It is okay if you have a fraction. It doesn't reduce anymore, so I would just keep it as that. Then I have p plus 7 equals 0. Well, I'm going to subtract p from each, not p, but subtract 7 from each side. I get p equals negative 7. So these are my two answers I should have gotten to solve for p. And before you go, all I want you to do is change a couple things. So before you come to class, instead of 5a squared for number 11, I'm actually going to change this. I want you to change it to 5x squared equals 7x minus 2 instead. And then for 12, what I want you to change that to, I want you to change to 6x squared minus 11x plus 3 equals 0. Okay, so I want you to change it to that. And lastly, number 14, I want you to change to 2x squared minus 11x equals negative 5.